Chrono Odyssey is actually truly looking unrecognizable. What they've done is they've posted a little teaser on Twitter/X, and it effectively shows off the new lighting. And boy, in most cases, does it look considerably better. Let me show you it right now. Now, I actually think that in every case, it's not necessarily a direct comparison. Some of it looks like it was daytime to nighttime. Some of the befores, I think on some levels, actually look a little bit better. But I think overall, you can see that they've effectively done like a lighting pass, which gets rid of some of the bad graphical lighting qualities that we saw in the beta. For example, it looks like some of that white misty haze in the background, that white fog, that seems to have predominantly been removed, and it looks like the starkness between the light and the dark has also basically gone. I do think some of them have lost a little bit of ambiance. Any fans of a certain British comedian will know what I'm doing there. I think overall this is such a considerable improvement that it's kind of wild. I do worry that some of the actual dark shots, so some of the nighttime shots, are potentially looking a little bit too dark. But that's really hard to actually grasp until we get our hands on it and we can actually play it. But I would say that a lot of the footage now looks, instead of it being gamey, it looks more real, which is a bit of a weird thing to say because it is a game. And it looks a little bit more like the trailers that we'd seen. And I don't want to use the phrase Dark Souls-esque too much when it comes to Chrono Odyssey, because I know people will absolutely just slay me. But I think it gives it a more atmospheric vibe, more akin to the Dark Souls Elden Ring kind of aesthetic, and I think a lot of people will be here for that indeed. Now, what's actually happening with Chrono Odyssey overall? Well, obviously they've improved the lighting and we've yet to see how that will actually play out, but somebody asked in one of the comments under that post talking about like, hey, what are you going to do with combat and movement? And they're like, hey, give us time, we're working on it. But really, we're not that far from what we had a couple of days ago. So if you don't know, there was the Kakao financials, and they effectively said that we would get some more news this year. I'm not sure if this tweet is that news. I think there's probably going to be something a little bit more substantial. And then I think they said there would be another test next year, and I would assume that they're still hoping to release by the end of next year. With a caveat there, I think there's, in my opinion, I don't really see Chrono Odyssey and Arcade Chronicles releasing that close to each other. I know certain other publishers have done stuff like that, particularly now NetEase, who did Sword of Justice and Where Winds Meet, although it's quite clear to me that Sword of Justice is absolute jank and Where Winds Meet is pretty damn good. But I really don't see Arcade and Chrono conflicting that close. I could see a couple of months between them though, so maybe one of them will release next year. I kind of feel like if any's going to release next year, it'll be Chrono, because we at least have seen that. Arcade Chronicles, we don't really know too much about. When we actually get our hands on, then we can talk about that. The hands-on for that apparently will also be next year. So that's kind of where we are with Chrono. There was a lot of the, they did those dev blogs, but I don't know if you guys saw those dev blogs or tried to read them yourself. They were incredibly long and really boring. Whilst I appreciate the transparency and the detail of that for some people, I think just this like 1 minute and whatever second clip that they've shown here of the lighting is a much better way of doing things. It will be even better when we can actually get our hands on with the game and see that they've improved it. But I'm still of the belief that they shouldn't do that until they're ready. Don't show us off another like substandard beta. Show us effectively something like the finished product. Not like a real beta, but like a marketing beta. I know a lot of us don't want that. A lot of us want to see the inner workings and stuff like that. But I think for Chrono Odyssey's health, they probably need to show us an actual marketing beta and then straight into a release. And it will need to be markedly improved. Which, to be fair, that lighting is sort of showing signs to me. I think it's getting there, right? It actually looks pretty decent. I won't keep you. There's not much else to say, right? They did a lighting update. It looks pretty good. Some of them are perhaps not a massive improvement, but the ones that are big improvements are really big improvements. And I think overall it will like make the lighting consistent and just much better. I think the previous lighting was sort of a little bit realistic. Like there were some really nice areas. Like if you went into the trees in a sunlit area, the shadows and the lighting were actually very pleasing. But if you went and stood out on a rock and looked out over the cliffs and stuff, it looked pretty jank. So hopefully this can maybe help the performance, help the visuals, and we're all going to be delighted. My main game, I still planning on being Chrono. I think that they can do some good stuff here and turn this game around. Like, I really believe they can do that. I was in the alpha test of like New World before it came out, and the difference between the alpha test of New World and its launch was pretty crazy. Games can change, and they look like they're changing it. What we are going to do in the short term is play Ion 2, and I know there's a lot of talk about the monetization around that game. I too am very concerned about that. But we're going to be playing it in literally just over a week now. I'll give you my thoughts on that then. I did play a little bit of the Chinese Whirlwind's Meet. That's a good game. Not really for me because I don't really like the wuxia vibe, but I would recommend everybody tries that on Friday. Like, that just seems like a decent game, especially if you may be a New World Andy and you're looking for a game right now. Anyway, like, subscribe. Goodbye.